So let's move on to Hellboy Blood and Iron. This is, of course, the second and final Hellboy animated film, and this one is... it's pretty good. I feel like it kind of loses track of what it was supposed to do, like, midway through the film. And I'll get to that in a minute. So the film revolves around... a big part of it is Professor Broom, who is once again played by John Hurt. And once again, this is not part of the live-action films. This is actually more along the lines of something like its own universe, but very close to the comics. So, with this film, the B.P.R.D. is kind of losing a little funding, and one of the, their head director is pretty much like, hey, how about you guys go to a hotel that's supposed to be haunted and check for ghosts, because this guy is a friend of a senator who funds us, so please do this or we'll lose our funding. And I like that, is that, Hellboy and Abe, it's not like in the movies where Hellboy and Abe have to be concealed. In this, however, in the comics, if you guys read them, and in this film, Hellboy and Abe they're monsters, but everyone's like, oh, look at that. That's the fun thing, is that Hellboy can usually just go about his business, and everyone is just like, oh, hey man. Hellboy can just walk around and do what he wants because, well, he protects mankind. The B.P.R.D. do have their secrets, but they're open. People know about them in the comics. And when they see Hellboy coming, he's like, "Oh, hey man, what's up?" So I like that no one's like batting an eye about seeing a demon that could bring about the apocalypse and and a fish man walking around, as well as a pyrokinetic being. But so let's get back to the story. The story continues that Hellboy, Abe, and even Dr. Broom, as well as Liz, they all go to this mansion to figure out what exactly is going, what exactly these little spirits are going on, because it turns out that the owner of the hotel took relics from Elizabeth Bathory. If you guys don't know who Elizabeth Bathory is, she's one of the biggest serial killers in history, as well as biggest sociopaths. The story is that Elizabeth Bathory, and this is true, is that she kidnapped and murdered young maidens and bathed in their blood and she believed she could stay young forever. And that's mostly translated to a lot of the legends of the vampire, as well as, obviously Dracula. So, Elizabeth Bathory in here is like the main villain for a little bit. But yeah, it's also mentioned that she is the high priestess of Hecate, who was a Greek goddess, but in here she's the pagan, the pagan god of witches, and they want to bring her back. In this film, we follow Broom, who is, he's getting on in years, but he wants to help because he's the one who slew Elizabeth when she became a vampire. And obviously in this continuity, she did kill people, but she did die and become a vampire. Broom, as well as several other people, got together, and, they didn't, this party didn't survive, but Broom in his younger years did manage to kill Bathory, so he has to see this through. There's a beautiful scene, in fact, of when they, discover all the ghosts, and they're every one of Elizabeth's victims, and there's just so much sadness there. It's not that they're horrified at first, but then they realize, oh god, these women were murdered without any, they didn't even realize they were dead. And now they're trapped here, their souls are trapped. They can't go to heaven or anywhere because they're trapped because of Elizabeth's impending resurrection. So we have that. We also have Hecate coming, and Hellboy is Hellboy and the team are thrown into the absolute nightmare that is, Elizabeth and Hecate's plan. Now, the big thing with this story is that this focuses a lot on Broom, and there are several flashbacks that actually go backwards, detailing Broom. In fact, if you could actually cut the scenes together and in the right chronological order, it could be a cool solo animated film for Broom. But really, it's more about, Broom, coming, when he was just an agent for the B.P.R.D., and the B.P.R.D. was still, in its infancy, and they were hunting Elizabeth, and he's having and he meets a priest who's emotionally distraught because, Elizabeth broke in, he believed that God was supposed to protect him, and when Elizabeth broke into his church, kind of broke him. He even meets the priest again, who was just, ruined, and he doesn't, he no longer has faith in God, and And that's the big thing, is that, even, he could be, Broom is tempted multiple times throughout this film to, reject his faith, reject his humanity, and live forever. Because they clearly show he's getting on it, he's getting old, and everyone's worried about him, especially Hellboy. So with this story, you have Broom in here who knows he's going to die one day, and, his old age or something else is going to come along, and he has to face Elizabeth alone. Now, this film is a little more gorier than Sword of Storms. There's actually a lot more blood. There's even some nudity in here, but not it's just a brief scene with Elizabeth. It's also not very... there's a lot of blood. You also have you have a werewolf in here, which is awesome. You've got so much in here. I feel like they tried to do so much in such a little time, and this film actually feels longer than it is. It's actually a little bit. It's actually a little more than like the DC animated films. It's very much the length of a DC animated film, and I find that actually kind of cool that they managed to stick so much in here. But the big thing in here is that, when they find out, they're trying to bring back Hecate, Elizabeth doesn't really matter. In fact, she gets wiped out by Broom in a very clever, but kind of like, well, you built up Elizabeth Bathory as the big bitch boss in this movie, and then you throw in Hecate for no reason, for whatever the fuck reason. So so she gets nerfed from this film, but then you bring in Hecate, who in here is brought into the world, and Hellboy and her throw down, and it's actually, again, something very close to the comic books, because, again, Hecate and Hellboy actually encountered one another. What I also like about this film is that, even though Hellboy is one of the central characters, he's not the main cause of everything. Again, this was the same thing with Sword of Storms, was that, Hellboy is not, Hellboy doesn't have to choose any destiny. Well, he does try to get tempted a few times by Hecate, who tries to get him on her side, but he's like, fuck you. He just beats the shit out of her. He's not even, listening to her. Because she wants, Anna Ongrama, Hellboy, at her side to, help her conquer the world, and Hellboy's like, destiny's overrated, bitch. But yeah. The other thing in here, and this hurt the film a little bit in my eyes, is I can't remember his name, but the character was voiced by Rob Paulson, and he could actually detect metal. He doesn't, he's the tech guy, but he doesn't really help out, even though he's given a task. You never really see him, fulfill it towards the end of the film. And I feel like Liz and Abe get very less to do than they did in the first film. This is more about Hellboy and Broom, which is fine. I just wish they got more to do with Liz and Abe. The other character is just there. I know he's some character from the comic, but I'm totally drawing a blank on the name right now. Again, despite all the minor flaws, this is still a really good film. I highly recommend it if you're a Hellboy fan. There's great action in here. There's again, great voice acting. Ron Perlman and John Hurt, everybody involved is excellent. Just all around, really good, really good animated film. I kind of wish that we got to see more Hellboy animated films, or even a Hellboy animated series. That'd have been fun. So, anyway, so you guys tell me, if you've seen the Hellboy animated film, what'd you guys think of it? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this review, and I will see you guys later.